Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order. Director Quady, will you please listen to the Pledge of Allegiance?
Facing colors, pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Quady?
Here.
Director McMillan? I'll come back. Director Pacala is absent. Director Robert?
Here.
Director Avila?
Here.
Director McMillan? I don't see her online.
Just
Look, yes.
I'm here.
Thank you.
All right, great. We have a quorum. All right, first up is public comments. This portion of the agenda may be utilized by any member of the public to address the board of directors on any matter within the jurisdiction of the board that does not appear on the agenda and on matters that are on the agenda but are not designated as action items. Depending on the subject matter, the board of directors may be unable to respond at this time or until a specific topic is placed on the agenda at a future Calleguas board meeting. In accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, please limit remarks to 3 minutes. Do have questions, comments, would like to speak? Sorry, if you have comments, if you would like to participate, please raise your hand. Yeah, I don't see any raised hand. Moving to item 3, do we have any items to be added to the agenda? No. Has everyone had time to review the agenda? I have one change, but does anybody else have any recommendations or requests? Okay, we're going to move item 5, presentations.
Sometime later in the agenda when all of the recipients are present.
Thank you. Okay, up next, we have the consent calendar. Does anybody have any items they'd like to pull or have questions on?
Staff does have a presentation on item 6C if the board wishes to see it.
Let's go with that.
Great.
Okay, good evening, Board of Directors. All right, tonight's presentation is on pipeline condition assessment for the Lindero Feeder Unit 2. I want to quickly touch on the importance of performing condition assessment. Here on the right is a photo of one of our bar wrapped pipelines. Let me see, do I have, yes, a little call out. You can probably see there in that dark shadow, that is a tear on the can of this pipeline that was discovered back in 2011. So importance of doing condition assessment, it is done to maintain operational excellence by making sure that we prevent pipeline failures. It ensures infrastructure reliability in a cost-effective manner by extending the life of the pipeline system, and it allows us to plan for pipeline rehabilitation. So again, this is one of the things we want to avoid before they become this type of issue. So condition assessment of bar wrap pipe. There's different methods to perform condition assessments of pipelines. It depends on the type of material. In this case, this pipeline is composed of a helically wound reinforcement bar, which you see there on that photo. It's larger and thicker than the gauge that you've seen on our pre-stressed pipe. It is not under tension. And it also includes a steel can and has a mortar coating and mortar lining. Our system has approximately 70 miles of this type of this type of pipeline in our potable water system. Just 2 years ago, we performed condition assessment on the Oxnard Santa Rosa feeder. The OSR feeder is a 39-inch diameter pipe, and we performed the assessment approximately 4 miles. The good news, as we reported back then, was that we did not find any leaks. So the only recommendation from that study was to do a soil resistivity sometime in the next 10 years. So That was a great results to that study. So now looking at Lindero Feeder Unit 2, this is a pipeline that is 42 inches in diameter. We would like to do condition assessment of just over 3 miles. And it was constructed back in 1967. And in this aerial photo, the red line designates the section of pipe that we would like to perform condition assessment. We would start at the upper left corner is where our Lindero pump station is located in Thousand Oaks. And the pipeline extends easterly, somewhat following Canaan Road towards Oak Park. And that right there is about just over 3 miles. So condition assessment, we've taken the phased approach. We're starting with some base method tasks. They're low cost, generally non-invasive. And this includes pipe to soil survey and soil to soil survey, as this photo shows here. Basically, it's a technician with a tool looking for spikes in voltage increases as you're walking along the length of the pipeline. And what you're looking for is any corrosion activity underneath the soil where the pipeline is located. And then if all looks good, the next step, or if there are any concerns that we identify, the next step would be to perform the leak survey, which is using that smart ball tool that's inserted into the pipeline. It is propelled by the flow of water, and it's listening for leaks. And if there is reason and cause for additional investigations, we would perform an internal visual inspection. That is more invasive because it does require us to take the pipeline out of service, isolate it, dewater, and then have personnel enter the pipeline to actually visually inspect the inside of that pipe. And if there is reason and cause for more inspection, we would set it up to a high resolution inspection, and that is very similar to presentations where we've seen on our PCCP pipe, where we an instrument and we're scanning the wall of the pipe and checking to see the condition of the steel can. And the last type of assessment is, if necessary, excavate the pipe and look at the condition of the outer surface to see if there is cracking, spalling of the concrete, any stains that would show signs of corrosion. So just to recap right now, what's being proposed is just doing the base methods, the pipe to soil survey, the soil to soil survey, and the leak survey. So a little bit more on the leak detection survey. Here these photos show on the lower photo, that is the tool itself that is listening, has sensors listening for leaks in the pipe. It is encapsulated in this Nerf-looking spongy ball. And it is, again, inserted into a pipeline that is under pressure and in service. And again, the pipeline is flowing water, and the flow of that water is propelling that instrument along the length of the pipe. So here's an exhibit. Basically on the left, it shows crude way to say that's a plunger. And the pipe is inserted through a minimum 4-inch diameter outlet. And it's flowing along the pipeline and listening again for leaks, also for any entrained air. And there are some instruments that are attached to what we call touch points, either a valve, a manhole, sensors that are listening for that ball to cross, and that's how the tool is tracked as it's flowing along the pipeline. And then at the very right here, you can see another plunger-looking tool. Basically, it's a net waiting for the ball to arrive. And once it arrives, because there is a camera on that tool that sees the ball being caught by the net, and then it's just pulled out. And again, all of this is done while the pipeline is in service. Here are some photos of our exercise 2 years ago. On the left is that Nerf ball being squished into that 4-inch outlet, and then the plunger being used to push the ball into the pipe. And this is just a photo of one of our manholes along the length of the pipeline that was being inspected. This is a sensor, again, listening for that ball as it's approaching the sensor and tracking its progress along the pipeline length. And then on the very end, this is the tool that is used to catch the ball and pulled out of the pipeline. So tonight's recommendation is to approve professional services by VNA Consulting Engineers in the amount of $238,920 to perform pipeline condition assessment services for Lindero Feeder number 2. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Fernando. Questions from the board? Quady, Robert?
This has come up before. I think it's a really cool technology and it is a low impact issue or it's a low impact alternative to, dewatering and inspection. It also happens to be very neat.
It is kind of interesting how you get to plunge that in to a water line.
Yes, and we do slightly reduce the pressure. We don't have Arnold Schwarzenegger in there to push the ball in. So we do have to reduce slightly the pressure so we are able to push the ball in.
And then the capture again is some size screen.
It's a net. It's a net. Mhm.
And it never gets missed.
Not that, well,
1 for 1.
Yeah, you beat me to it. Director McMillan?
No questions.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, I know you mentioned, we're starting with the few steps here, and if we need to, we find leaks, we're going with the ball method, right? The price, the estimate you have here that you're looking to have approved tonight, is that inclusive of everything that may or may not come?
Can you go back to the slide with the process? So we will do the ball regardless.
Okay,
So this takes us through this base method. Anything below that, the internal visual inspection and beyond, would only be if we identify any issues that merit further investigation. And if there's an internal visual inspection, that would be done by staff.
okay. So 238,000, how long will this take?
the surveys are typically scheduled with 1 week, those 2 surveys there. And then the actual fall inspection is a week or 2 afterwards, once we get the results from the surveys.
Okay.
And the actual inspection takes 2 days, 3 maybe, typically 2 days.
And we have to time it a little bit carefully seasonally because we need to have a certain amount of flow. So you wouldn't be able to do it like right now because we probably don't have the velocity necessary.
That is correct. It is the requirements have a velocity between 2.5 to 3.5 feet per second that the ball can propel. It can't go too fast and it can't go too slow because it might get caught in a valve or in an outlet.
So 238,000 is going to get us up to pipe to soil survey, soil survey, leak survey, and smart ball. And the price is that because it's not just them checking it, they go back and they look at the data and they put together reports and all that, right?
That is correct. We will have a report at the end of this with recommendations for next steps. Yes.
Okay. Great. Any other questions from the board?
I was just, so it was mentioned unit 1 and unit 2. So are the units the same distance? So the one was 3 miles and the other one was the same?
No, this is unit 2. All the units are different distance lengths. This one happened to be 3.1 miles long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments from the consent calendar? Not looking for a motion.
We'll move.
First and a second, please.
Director Quady,
Aye.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Pacala is absent, Director Robert, Director Avila.
Aye. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Up next, we have action items. First up being discussion regarding resolution number 2121. A resolution of the Board of Directors of Calleguas Municipal Water District nominating its Aqua JPIA board member to the California Water Insurance Fund Board. Okay,
I'll be handling this,
proceed.
at least initially. So as mentioned at the previous board meeting, Director Quady is once again interested in serving on the Aqua JPIA California Water Insurance Fund, or CWIF. He has done so in the past, took a little bit of a hiatus and is looking to return. He's represented this board on the Aqua JPIA board for 14 years and is very well respected by Aqua JPI staff and his fellow Aqua JPI board members. In order to place him in nomination, there's a couple things that need to happen. This board needs to take an action adopting that resolution. And then we have to get 3 concurring resolutions from other Aqua JPA members. Those are all in the works. We actually, I think, have 5 lined up.
Wow. Okay. I'll kick it off. You've done a great job as, sitting next to you for 5 years now at JPIA. You pay attention, you know the people, you do what you need to do there to make sure we're taken care of here at Calleguas. And I support this.
Well, I actually do want to start the rumor that, it's not a rumor. It's a fact that I really do care about the success of CWIF.
Mhm.
And it was a tough thing, mixed thing to walk away, but I did have a idea that I was so concerned about it being successful that I wanted to make sure that all our bases and T's, everything was covered. And so I thought, well, if somebody else can come in here, maybe they have another fresh set of eyes, and take a look at it. And there's been that chance, and now it's kind of like I'm kind of antsy. I see some market changes, and I'd love to participate. There it is.
Anybody else would like to say anything? Director Robert, Director McMillan?
Yeah, I'll just say that I think, passion is 80% of success. And if Director Quady is passionate about something and he's got that, I think you can definitely achieve it. So you've got my support.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Yeah, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Quady,
Yes.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Pacala is absent, Director Robert,
Yes.
Director Avila.
You sounded very hesitant, Director Quady. Are you sure?
Didn't know whether to say aye or yes. I wanted to beg a little bit.
Yeah, aye. The motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Okay, up next, we have item B, discussion regarding resolution number 2122, a resolution of the Board of Directors of Calleguas Municipal Water District honoring Congresswoman Julia Brownlee for her leadership and support of regional water reliability. Charlie Hollyfield, Manager of External Affairs.
Thank you, President Avila. As you're aware, Calleguas was recently approved for a $1.029 million earmark for the Lake Bard Pump Station project as
092.
1.0, thank you for the correction. Absolutely. Got more money. As requested by Congresswoman Julia Brownlee. So as a mark of our appreciation to the Congresswoman, we have for your consideration a board resolution for you to pass, hopefully, for her work on our behalf to secure this funding. And I want to thank Director McMillan for the idea. And next week, when we're all in Washington, D.C. for the Aqua DC conference, we will be doing a ceremonial presentation to the Congresswoman with our challenge coin, hopefully this beautiful resolution, and I want Kat to hold it up because she was the lead on the redesign of this, which includes water drops.
Do you mind walking it around a little close?
Take it for a spin.
If you can have a Vanna moment here to show the board the detail of the design.
Kat, could you read the resolution to us, please?
The whole resolution?
Yeah, can you read the whole thing, please?
Yeah. But I want you to note the water droplets / filigree at the top.
I like our logo. It's like we have a new logo with a little bit different colors and you got some shine in there too. It looks nice to take with us.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I think that there's
Just cargo on the plane.
So you're gonna have to take it out for signals.
It went out for
So
signature.
you have one out for signatures. Okay.
Ready with that. So thank you, Kat, for the tour. And we ask for the board's approval of this item.
We have a discussion, comments? Move. All right, we have a second. For second, roll call, please.
Director Quady,
Yeah, aye.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Pacala is absent, Director Robert,
yes.
Director Avila.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Charlotte and Kat. All right, up next, we have reports, January 2026 water use and sales, December 25 hydropower generation, and 26 investment summary reports. Dan.
All right, good evening, directors. We have the water use and sales report through January. So looking at January, you can see that we sold 4,770 acre feet, which was good. That was over what we had budgeted. January was a little bit the early part of January was drier. We started getting some rain at the end, so this doesn't surprise me that much. But so we definitely had more than what we had budgeted. Doesn't quite make up for what we've been short so far this year, but it's a start. So for the year, we should be at about 46,600 acre feet. So far, we've only sold 43,900 acre feet. So we're still running a little behind what we had budgeted, but it's not too far off. Just kind of give you some graphs. You can see that in January, you can see that how we did actually do better in the graph for the fiscal year, which is like the second month out of the year that we've been able to go over budget. And you can see that we're finally picking up a little bit for over the last 12 months. It's coming back up, and hopefully we continue a little bit like that, but February's been pretty wet, so not sure that's going to help us. To look at the Metropolitan invoice, we had sales of almost $7.3 million. We did do quite a bit of transferring, but it all netted out to $221,000 of use. And then we have reconciliation adjustment to get to the total water purchased by the $7.2 million also. New CRC and RTS amounts as we start into a new calendar year from Met. And we had just very little conservation money to bring us to the total of $8.3 million Met bill. For the SMP discharge, we continued to be discharging more than what we had budgeted. We had discharged 66 acre feet, budgeted 47, so that's still some good news for the SMP. Overall, for the year, we're at 539 acre feet of discharge compared to a budget of 467 acre feet. So continue to do better on the SMP. Power generation, we didn't do quite as good in December than we typically have. We only brought in $12,000. We budgeted 24, but overall for the year, we're like right on budget. So we're right on pace to still hit the $600,000 for the budget. Just to kind of give you the snapshot of the revenues, you can see that overall the potable water sales of $9.8 million, bringing a total to $84 million. So we're at 57%. We should be closer to 60% at this point. So we are a little bit behind on the water revenues. Recycled water sales continue to be doing very well. We're at 108%. We've already met our budget. So from here on out, just extra revenue for us. The SMP fees continues also to be above budget. So we're at 69, almost 70%. And we're typically at about 58 at this point of the year. So we're doing good. And power generation is like right on pace for the $600,000. And last, cash and investments, you can see that overall, we did send out more money than we brought in, tune of $500,000. But a lot of that was really because we had to make our interest payments of the $2.1 million. So that used up our cash for the month. But other than that, we did add extra cash in the operating, as well as we got some good investment returns for the month. That's all I have for water use and sales for January.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I just have one. Dan, on the water usage thing, I see Oak Park region is 0.0.
Which region?
The water usage map, the water use and sales, usage by region.
There's zeros there.
Well, actually 0.0. Is that what they do?
Oh, I can't bring it up. For some reason. Zero for which section?
Oak Park region?
Oh, it's an Excel spreadsheet. There might be some formula problem in there. I'll have to go take a look at it. Oak Park definitely brought, Triumph definitely purchased water this year.
That shows
Yes,
table there.
I will take a look at that and get that fixed.
And then that's it. You're gonna go on the investment summary for it.
Director McMillan, any questions?
No, thank you, though.
Director Robert?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Up next, we have an update on the Wainimi outfall permitting and inspection. Mueller, Regulatory Line Supervisor. Good evening.
Evening. Hello. All right, good afternoon, directors. Today I'll be presenting an update on Calleguas' National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, or known as NPDS. We wanted to share some key highlights over the past several years and provide an update on where our permit is in the current renewal process. Okay. So NPDS permits operate on 5-year cycles. During each cycle, an application for the next permit must be submitted 180 days before the current permit expires. Calleguas' initial permit was adopted in April 2008. That permit established a dilution ratio of 72:1, which I'll discuss in more detail later. In January 2014, Camarosa began discharging to the S&P from the Round Mountain Treatment Plant. This occurred mid-cycle, and in March 2014, our first permit renewal was adopted. Fast forward to September 2014, that discharge reached the effluent station and began discharging to the ocean. And that marked the start of our monitoring requirements of the effluent station and our ocean monitoring sites. In June 2019, we adopted our second year, 5-year permit. And this is the permit we are currently under. Most recently, we submitted our application package called the Report to Waste Discharge. And that was in January 2024. All right, so the NPDES permit renewal process is a multi-year effort and involves close coordination with the regional board, consultants, laboratories, internal staff, and also sometimes potential dischargers. The permits evolve over time, and as science advances, we see changes in the ocean plan, which drives our effluent limits. Permits also change as the regulatory landscape shifts and as laws such as the Clean Water Act are interpreted and challenged. And as a side note, I believe this was asked at a previous board meeting, but NPDES annual operating fees are based on 2 factors: threat to water quality and complexity. We fall into the lower tier for complexity just because we don't have any treatment on our S&P before it goes to the ocean. But because we do discharge to the Pacific Ocean, we are classified in the highest tier threat due to the potential long-term loss of beneficial use. All right, so as mentioned earlier, the original NPDES adopted the dilution ratio of 72:1. And one of the permit requirements tied to this ratio is the mixing zone study, also referred to as a DICE study. A dilution ratio describes how much ocean water mixes with one part of our discharge once it leaves the outfall. It's a key link between how the ocean actually behaves and how our permit requirements are set. And the purpose of this study is to verify the dilution ratio predicted by the modeling previously. And this slide outlines how that requirement has evolved over time. So in 2014, Calleguas submitted a mixing zone study work plan. At that time, we shared that flows were too low to conduct a meaningful study and requested the requirement be deferred until additional dischargers came online. And the regional board actually agreed with us. And then you fast forward to 2019, we made a similar request because at that point we only had 2 dischargers online and our total flow was less than 1 million gallons per day. And we only had the potential for one other additional discharger. So we again requested to postpone the study. The regional board denied that request and said we needed to complete the mixing zone study during the 2019-2024 permit term. So we began planning this study in 2022, and in coordination with the board, conducted the field work in September 2021. This resulting data was used to calculate the dilution ratio, and that a final report was submitted to the board with this information. Before reviewing the DICE study results, I think it's helpful to step back to 2008 when the initial permit was adopted. At that time, there were 3 models run to determine the appropriate dilution ratio. This ratio is critical because it is used directly to calculate effluent limits. Simply put, the lower the dilution ratio, the more conservative or restrictive the effluent limits are. The higher the dilution ratio, the less conservative the limits. 2 EPA-approved models predicted higher dilution ratios. The Visual Plumes model predicted a ratio of almost 100:1, and the Cormix model predicted approximately 94:1. However, the regional board's internal model predicted a significantly lower dilution ratio of 72:1, which was ultimately selected and incorporated into our permit. So when planning the DICE study, our objectives were to collect site-specific field data during summer conditions when the ocean is stratified and the dilution ratio would be the most conservative. We also collected supplemental data such as temperature and salinity to support the dilution ratio calculations. We needed enough data the data need to be robust enough to either confirm or refute the existing 72:1 ratio. And to meet flow requirements, we actually had to purchase, sorry, that's really smart. We actually had to purchase recycled water from Camarosa. We established monitoring at effluent station to ensure consistent dye concentrations were met. And we notified public agencies such as the cities of Oxnard, Hueneme, Ventura and Channel Islands harbors, the fire department of Oxnard, and the Navy. We also maintain communications with all S&P dischargers. During the study, we rotated sampling among 8 ocean sites, and that took about approximately 8 hours. Dye concentrations were used measuring a fluorometer, and the picture there shows they're deploying the fluorometer to the next monitoring site. After the field work was completed, we analyzed the data to calculate the dilution ratio. The top photo shows the most visible instance of dye in the water, and you can kind of see near the boat a little bit of a darker tinge. This was the strongest signal that we actually observed, and the lower image shows a model of the dye profile once we inputted our field data. The lighter orange indicates 5 parts per million concentration, and the darker about 10. And for reference, we put in about 1,900 parts per million. Let's see here. So we calculated the dilution ratio, and it fell between the predicted Cormix and visual plumes models. When you extrapolate that out to the 19.1 million gallons per day that we have as our permitted flow, the resulting dilution ratio ranged from 94:1 to 89:1. And based on these findings, Calleguas requested a revised dilution ratio of 89:1 in our final board or permit to the, our final report to the board. As mentioned earlier, we submitted our permit renewal application in January 2024. A common question is why we don't have our permit now, an updated one. The answer is the regional board is currently in limbo due to a recent court decision. And as a result, we are expecting a draft permit in late 2026 or early 2027. And the court case was San Francisco versus EPA, and they ruled that the Clean Water Act does not allow EPA to impose vague end result requirements, meaning that dischargers cannot be held liable for water quality in the ocean. Facilities will still be required to have permits and meet specific effluent limits, but they cannot be penalized for pre-existing ocean conditions. So many permits right now statewide are currently on hold while the board determines how to incorporate these changes from this finding. Okay, while we await a new permit, I'd like to provide a snapshot of our current NPDES permits requirements. We monitor for over 100 constituents weekly, monthly, quarterly, and semi-annually. We conduct biennial sediment monitoring. We were required to do a mussel bioaccumulation study, and we completed that in 2022. We also conduct sensitive species monitoring every 24 months, and that consists of taking toxicity tests on 3 different species at our effluent station. And our current 72:1 dilution ratio drives our effluent limits. And the photo here is shown of one of our regulatory staff members, Sean Miller. He's down at our effluent station and he's measuring dissolved oxygen. Okay, so based on years of data collection and analysis, the permit renewal application included the following requests. We requested to increase the dilution ratio from 72:1 to 89.1 or to 89.1. We asked to reduce monitoring frequency for selected constituents. Some that we do monthly, we asked to go to twice a year, and then some that we do quarterly, we asked to do every 2 years. We requested that the sediment monitoring requirement be removed. We've been conducting this every 2 years, and we have not found a difference in the sediment accumulation of our constituents in the control versus near our outfall. And then we asked for no more bioaccumulation studies as we did the mussel study, and we did not find a difference there as well. And then we requested that the sensitive species monitoring be modified to once per permit term instead of every 24 months because we've not seen a difference between the different species. And then I just wanted to close with a short clip of our annual dive survey completed of our outfall in October 2025. Eco Marine is our dive consultant, and they reported the outfall remains structurally sound and has developed into quite a habitat for many species. And in this clip, you'll see a particularly happy sheep crab. And during the surveys, I think they found about 14 fish species, 15 macroinvertebrates, and 18 species of algae were identified. So, okay, it works here. Sometimes they put it to Beatles music, but this time they did.
We have the rights for that music.
Oh, submarine.
That's true. There he is.
Yeah, he made. Wow.
And this is the portion of the pipe where it's exposed and it's getting close to where the riprap is. So just for reference. And that's it. I'm happy
Is
to.
that all growth on top of the pipe?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it's a little reef.
it kind of is. Yeah, I mean, we don't have coral reefs here. It's obviously in a sandy bottom location, but by putting the pipe there and the associated riprap, it has created its own habitat. But I think it's the first time we've seen a giant crab. We've seen
It is.
And obviously all the different kinds of like kelp and
Yeah,
Yeah, even a sand dollar colony a few years ago, which is kind of neat too. But yeah,
wow.
So comparatively, freshwater outfalls are attractant to wildlife, aquatic wildlife. So it being less salty than the ocean, I would be surprised.
it certainly seems to be a thriving ecosystem.
Yeah. You have questions? Director Quady?
Yes, so this study was based on a flow from Camarillo.
Cambrosa, yeah. So we had to buy the extra water because we didn't have enough discharge. And so that was we talked to our consultant, Anchor Environmental was our consultant on this job, and they said 2 million gallons was the minimum that we needed to actually do this study. So we purchased to be able to complete the study.
Right. You how that equates to what our flow would actually be as in representation.
We have like some modeling data and based on the three models, or actually I should say the 2 models that we use that were EPA approved. And so they have at different flows, dilution ratio. So at the minimum in this kind of study was 2 million gallons. So that's what they base it off. And it goes all the way up to our flow of 19. So that's how they sort of extrapolate the difference. Yeah.
For quality question. I mean, it's very, for what we expect to.
Oh, right.
Training in the long.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think that it was close enough for them and they are one of our dischargers. So it wasn't like we were purchasing a different type of water to do the study, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, they are authorized to discharge. They only do so, well, obviously they discharge from the Round Mountain to Salter whenever that's operating, but from a recycled water perspective, they discharge when they have insufficient demand and storage, and it occurs very, very infrequently. As it occurred maybe once since.
Once, and the last time we had it was when we purchased and then maybe once before that.
I think there was one other time.
Yeah, no, I think we're saying, yeah, I agree.
I mean, what's nice is it gave us the flex. I don't know how else we would have accomplished the study without that flow of.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to, yeah.
To me, that's a great initiative. I mean, given that they rejected your request to postpone the study because you don't have enough flow. So
What are you supposed to do, right? Yeah, so we figured it out.
thank you. Wow.
Sure. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay. Up next, we have a discussion regarding salinity management pipeline policy. Christine.
Yes, this is the next installment in our ongoing discussion about salinity management pipeline and how to address potential additional dischargers. At the last time we discussed this, what I presented to the board were a couple of key questions that I thought it was important for us to answer. And at the time, I asked the board to provide input on what data they would need to further the discussion. Tonight's presentation presents those questions again, along with with the data that was identified. Today's discussion could result in more data needs. I'm not asking that the board make a decision tonight, but I am hoping that we can progress in the discussion based on the information we present and identify additional data needs and next steps as appropriate. So seems like a very fundamental question, but what is the purpose of the salinity management pipeline? And we identified 3 pieces of information for that, which were from the SMP EIR, Ordinance 19, which governs the operation of the SMP, and then the strategic plan objectives relevant to the SMP. So I actually went back to the SMP EIR, and what it states as the objectives are to enable both public and private water agencies to develop new water sources that at the present time cannot be widely used due to poor quality, to manage the use of high salinity groundwater and treated municipal wastewater, and disposal of brine produced by enhanced water treatment. So that was the purpose and need in the original EIR. It was a programmatic EIR completed in, I think, the late 90s. And since then, there's been a number of subsequent environmental documents in terms of covering additional phases, but they all what's called tier off. That's a CEQA term, this original program EIR and the original purpose and need. I also took a look at Ordinance 19. This was adopted in 2011 by the board to govern operation of the SMP. It shares a lot of characteristics with Ordinance 12, which governs the potable water portion of our operation. I'm kind of highlight some elements here. You can see the first part in yellow there is facilitating the development of local water supplies. And I'm going to ask Ian to speak to the next two elements here in the preamble.
Yeah, so as you can see on the screen, the other two are protecting the Las Posas aquifer storage and recovery well field from salt intrusion and assisting in bringing the Las Posas basin to safe yield. So the way that the first one of those, protecting the well field from salt intrusion, if you remember from various groundwater briefings we've had, there's a brackish groundwater in the shallow aquifer along the arroyo, so in the southern portion of the basin, and those salts have been migrating northward over the decades. So in order to protect the main bulb of water, if you will, that we're trying to inject and store for emergencies, more water we inject in the main portion of the well field where we can inject, it keeps that salt at bay from migrating further north. So that's in order to maintain the ASR well field and be able to have that resource available to us as we go through figuring out how we're going to use it. The ability to desalt water and move that water, the desalted water, out of the lower southern portion of the basin can help protect the basin, the water that we inject. And then assisting in bringing the Las Posas basin to safe yield. What safe yield is means something very different today than it did in the late 90s. But generally speaking, the main problem still persists, which is that extractions are greater than natural recharge. And if there's a way to address some of either water quality concerns because of those salt plumes, or to develop additional water resources that can take pressure off of groundwater extractions in the Las Posas basin, the SMP could assist in doing that by providing the disposal of the brine.
And then that second preamble, I think, is a little bit more straightforward and requires a little bit less background and explanation. It's just that the district is committed to operating and maintaining the SMP for its long-term water quality and water supply benefits to the district's purveyors, the basin, in this case, primarily referring to the Las Posas basin in the paragraph above, and others. And just to refresh the board's memory on what types of discharges are allowed under Ordinance 19, this is also consistent with the types of discharges that are allowed under the permit that Amy was just speaking about. What's allowed is recycled water, such as Camarosa's excess recycled water, groundwater, potable water, or brine from the membrane treatment of any of the above. So those are the types of water that are allowed under Ordinance 19, covered in the permit, covered in the EIR. So that's always what's been envisioned by this board with respect to the SMP. And then looking at our 2023 strategic plan, we identified 5 guiding principles. Obviously prudent stewardship of fiscal resources, conducting our affairs open, ethically, and honestly, serving our customers fairly and equitably, welcoming partnerships in pursuit of our mission, and facilitating regional solutions to regional problems. I think that last one is particularly relevant here. Its official name is the Regional Salinity Management Pipeline, and considering its broad extent and future scope, it is most certainly a regional solution that facilitates numerous partnerships. A couple of other relevant objectives include in the maintain operational excellence objective, it does specifically reference that we need to maximize operational flexibility to meet the needs of our current and future retail partners and SMP dischargers. Of course, accomplishing the mission in a cost-effective manner is always important, regardless of which aspect of our operations we're referring to. The SMP has been critical to diversifying the regional water portfolio in terms of facilitating brackish groundwater desalting, facilitating potable reuse, as well as facilitating optimized groundwater utilization by, for example, the berry growers that we've entered into an agreement, SMP discharge agreement with. As I mentioned, partnerships and collaboration are the very foundation of the SMP. All of our dischargers are other entities. Those entities include our current dischargers, Port Hueneme Water Agency, Camarosa, and Camarillo. A number of entities into which we've already entered into discharge agreements, like the berry growers, AmCal Housing for the farm worker housing, as well as ones that are, and well, Camarillo as well as others that are yet to come. As the Amgen one, we've entered an agreement, of course, with the JPA with Las Virgenes Triunfo as well. So shifting, that's kind of background on the board's thinking as the SMP has been developed from the CEQA process through the establishment of the ordinance and how the board was considering the SMP in the context of the strategic plan that was adopted in 2023. Before we move on to the financial structure, are there any questions on that portion of the presentation?
Dr. Quady?
No, just have comments. Thank you for the answers there.
Yeah, there was some interesting background there that
Yeah.
even I had forgotten
Yeah, I wasn't around for.
any of it.
Yeah.
In the 90s, I'm not sure many of us.
Yeah, and the SMP,
Even I wasn't.
you know, history doesn't really come up that often, so I appreciate that background.
Yeah, it was an interesting exercise for me, and I've probably been involved in the SMP for a longer period of time than anyone currently at Calleguas. But even the EIR predates me.
It's interesting to see the objectives and how they apply to our region as the region changes and the plans change and the, you know, population increases. So and in Ordinance 19, I think unlike a lot of things, a lot of codes and stuff written in California, I think these are actually written to be applicable to future. So.
Yeah, the SMP was by definition very forward thinking. And even though exactly how it's operating has evolved over time, the basic underlying principles remain valid. The main change, I would say, for example, potable reuse wasn't part of the conversation when it was originally developed because there wasn't a regulatory structure for that. But thankfully, that is something that we've been able to easily evolve to accommodate.
Yeah, I will say some of the target applications seem a little broad. Groundwater, recycled water, those things can have very broad applications. So.
And in all cases, the water quality has to meet the requirements regardless of its source.
Yeah.
Dr. McMillan?
No, thank you. Very helpful.
All right, we're going to move on to some numbers. So I'm going to give part of this, and of course, Dan's going to give part of this. I think when I presented this last, I framed this as two questions, one about the financial structure for connecting and one about discharging. I integrated them here because it was kind of difficult to keep them separate. And so some of the data we talked about was how we structure connection now, the cost, the rates, the overall financial situation of the SMP, and approaches used by other agencies in somewhat similar applications. Obviously, our pipeline is unique, but there are elements of other approaches that could be relevant here. So the way that connections work, and this is analogous to what we do on the potable side too, it's just that folks aren't building new turnouts very often anymore, is that the new discharger pays for all the costs except our staff time associated with design and construction of their connection, which we call an SMP discharge station. They don't pay for a connection cost or any buy-in to the existing system. They don't reserve capacity. We are not capacity constrained right now. The pipe was actually built to accommodate a larger flow than has thus far materialized, and we don't anticipate running into a capacity constraint in the near future. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan for this part.
All right, so I'm going to cover some financial considerations that we have on the SMP. The first of them is the fact that when we set the rates for the SMP, we really didn't work to recover capital. We were trying to set rates in order to get people to join the SMP because we built a pipeline. Nobody had desalters. We want them to build the desalters so that they could start discharging to the SMP. And so that was the main thing when we set these rates. We spent over $137 million in construction costs. 39.5 of what was offset by grants. So really you still have to, close to $100 million, but yeah, good
$1 million in grants is not nothing.
grants. So it was sizable. And then the estimated cost for this next section is with the $20 million in order to get to the Amgen, if we're talking about that. The construction cost, when we originally did this, was all funded through water. So, we didn't have an SMP fund with any money in it. We used water rates in order to fund this, all the construction money that we had. But the other thing we want to point out is that property taxes did play a part. We get property taxes from everybody within our service district. So every resident, every business pays property taxes. We get a piece of that. You can go to the next slide.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot I'm controlling.
I don't have.
My bad.
It was weird up here.
I'll be more attentive.
So looking at the rates, these are the rates that we currently have. When we set this up, we started at the brine at $500 and the non-brine was at 50. And this has just gone up only by the increases in the water rates. So we tied it to that so that it kind of goes up sort of evenly with the water rates as far as percentages go. We did set up an out of service area, which is 1.5 times. We haven't really used that yet as far as for the SMP. What that's generated is right now we're at about $640,000 in revenues. The majority of it's from the discharge into the SMP. The capital replacement charge, so the purveyors of the dischargers paid to get the discharge station set up. We charge them a fee on a monthly basis to recover money so that when they have to replace it or do repairs to it, we're collecting that up front. So we're putting it aside into the construction. And then the SMP maintenance fees, as we go along for that discharge station, we have to monitor all of the discharge that's coming in to make sure that it's in compliance. And so we actually bill, if we do any work on it, we bill the purveyor discharger that fee based on their costs. On the expense side, we do some whenever anybody in maintenance works on the SMP, we actually have them charge their salaries to it so we can track the costs this way. These are the, we have some supplies. A lot of it has to do with the water treatment costs when we're doing all the sampling we have to do, as Amy just described. That costs us the majority of the money. And then we have some outside services and then those permit fees, which are pretty extensive as well. And so right now with 640,000 in revenues, 447,000 in expenses, we are making a little bit of money. So it's good. We can go to the next slide. The real problem is that because we had startup costs and we had to do this monitoring from the beginning, we sort of went into a deficit to begin with. I mean, that was kind of going to happen no matter what, because it took a long time to get discharges in, but we still had to do maintenance and monitoring all along the line. So right now, as of the fiscal year 24-25, we're short by about $1.3 million. So even though we are making a little bit of money, it's going to take us quite a bit of time to make that up in order to get us back to the break even just on the operating costs.
Not to even mention the initial investment.
That is correct. That's not even, we haven't even started collecting anything on those initial investments. But what we need is really, more people to discharge into the SMP. The more people we can get in, the sooner we can get back, start collecting other costs. So part of the cost of service study, we're kind of looking at what we need to do in order to even break even right now at this point. You can see we spent the $97.7 million of what we need to still recover. And we took the cost and we divided over 50 years, assuming a 50-year life. And that leaves us trying to recover SMP capital costs of $3.8 million annually in order to do that. Right, it's quite a big number still. Right now, we are only having discharge of budgeted 780 acre feet for this fiscal year, which means that our rate needs to be closer to 5,700 per acre foot in order to be recovering all these costs. So it's better this time than the last time we did this study, because the last time it was like 9,000 because we had even less discharge. So the more discharge we get in there, the better this number is going to be. And eventually we will be able to lower that and we'll be meeting it and putting money in to recover the construction costs.
Yeah, and I would just caveat that this is a very narrow view of, this is a limited view of the SMP costs and benefits. It doesn't attempt to capture the benefit that the SMP brings to our regional water supply reliability by supporting the projects that our purveyors have engaged in, nor in the economic value that those projects or any future ones bring to the region. This is like a very SMP focused analysis. It's not intended to be any sort of broad cost benefit analysis in that regard.
Does this reflect the line break that we had in the SMP and the cost to repair?
Yes. So we track all of the assets, anything that we do with the SMP line, we tracked it separate in our fixed assets so that we can come up with these numbers.
So any question on Dan's numbers before I move on? Not Dan's numbers, our numbers that Dan has very, very clearly presented. So one concept that's come up is the idea of a connection fee. And this is something that Director Quady was referring to. And this is not uncommon in sewer systems and water systems elsewhere.
Sounds like an ad valorem tax.
It's
Housing
not,
development.
it's not really, because that's a property tax. This is more of a buy-in to the system. And this is something Calleguas actually used to have one on the potable side. And it went away, I don't know how many years ago, Walt may recall, because there wasn't a sufficiently, it had been determined it didn't make sense to do moving into the future. Yeah, so.
Well,
Right.
you know, with something like this, you know, we are, when somebody wants to join the district and they annex into the district, it's similar but separate, right? They pay an annexation fee to the district based on.
True. And in this case, we're dealing with dischargers who are already annexed. Because Calleguas is one whole thing and there isn't a difference between Calleguas that serves water and Calleguas that provides SMP service. So this is one concept. Dan and I had a discussion with Ref Tallis, who's doing our current cost of service study, about how these kinds of situations are handled elsewhere and how they've been handled if something was changed midstream. This is an approach that, like, West Virginia uses this for their sewer system. It is something that the district Calleguas could consider moving forward. It's not the only option, but it is something I wanted to put out there to the board as something to consider. I think it's tricky because we already have a number of existing agreements, discharge agreements. We have a number of existing dischargers. We have agreements that have been executed with dischargers in varying states of development, from literally the project's out to bid right now and we're opening bids next
Tuesday.
To a request from Amgen where we have not executed an agreement yet.
And different types of potential customers. We've got varying levels of community projects to profit companies, and weighed against our intrinsic position to serve our customers, right? We are a district that was established to the benefit of our customers. And so that weighs heavily in my mind on the difference of our commitment to community projects for those customers versus our responsibility to look at the cost benefit of agreements with for-profit companies and how it benefits or takes away from those customers. For example, it's very clear that this was a cost that we took on and a cost that hasn't been recouped yet, right? Of course. As a net benefit, like you said, to the community in regional development of future projects. And so going into new agreements that benefit either the companies or benefit the individuals, it has to be weighed, I think, to a specific strategic purpose that is an identified goal. And I think that goal, and I've been thinking about this a lot, I think that goal is the benefit to the people we serve.
I'll go back, I'll jump on that. I'll go back to before staff recommendation came out that we take on that portion of the pipe. Our partner, our neighbor, Las Virgenes, was already building that pipe through that section. what stopped Amgen from connecting into Las Virgenes pipe, paying them a fee? And we still get the fee at the point of connection where Las Virgenes connects to us because they're still providing that discharge. So I don't see why we're really talking about that portion and the extra $20 million when we weren't going to take on that cost. Amgen could easily connect to Las Virgenes and Las Virgenes could charge them a fee. And then it's a pass through, right? So
It's,
I don't understand.
Walt, do you mind speaking a little bit to the legal complications there that are not fully fleshed out, but
Yeah, one of the further things that we'll be looking at is the kind of underlying LAFCO issues, sphere of influence issues, who was authorized to provide particular service within the service area. There are LAFCO findings, I believe, with respect to essentially with respect to SMP service and saying that Calleguas is the provider of that service. So that's a partial initial answer or attempt to answer your question.
Right. And then, you know, I mean, we're the provider, but Las Virgenes pipe is coming all through our district anyway. Right. So what's the LAFCO take on that?
well, we haven't specifically asked LAFCO, and I think it's probably premature to do so. If I could just respond to provide some additional information in terms of Amgen, I know Amgen is a ratepayer and they are a property tax payer. They're not, their headquarters is here. I don't know exactly how much they pay in water bills or property taxes, but I suspect it is quite substantial.
And they could choose to close their business or move it out of state next year. And we're on the hook for a $20 million pipe that we're never going to recoup.
I think those are potentially separate entities. Like I live in the district. I am a personal ratepayer. If I start a water bottling plant and I pump from the ground and I discharge, I want an agreement with the SMP. Well, fundamentally, I'd have a conflict of interest. But if I wasn't on the board and I wanted to do that, I would consider myself two entities, a business and an individual. And so I think that's definitely a variable. Have we looked into, and I know that I threw out the term last board meeting, a business strategist to evaluate the value of, I'm going to call it a service that we offer and have for sale. Compared to, because realistically, I'm viewing this as a business decision and benefit goes to what I'm going to compare to as our shareholders or our customers, our districts. And realistically, there's a few metrics that need to be evaluated for that business decision. What value do you have? What demand do you have? And one that's not necessarily always a common business metric, but what values have you committed to maintain? Meaning, I know that you said we're not close to our capacity, but we've committed a certain level of future capacity for future projects that, let's say there's a huge demand now and we allocate that full capacity, then let's say a local city wanted to set up a desalter and we go, sorry, we're kind of out.
Well, not only that, what guarantees do we have that we're going to recoup this cost on an investment for a for-profit company? Right. Our ratepayers and honestly, going back to the LAFCO thing, we should have started at LAFCO. Staff should have reached out to LAFCO before coming to the board, before making decisions and bringing in discussions to the board about whether we want to take on this portion or whether LAFCO is going to allow a for-profit company to hook up to the Las Virgenes portion of that pipe. That should have been one of the first steps before all this came to our board.
Couple of additional considerations. Amgen is, I understand Amgen is a for-profit company. I think they've made a very clear commitment to staying in this area. They recently announced an enormous investment in a development facility there. I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but I know county supervisors and the city were celebrating that event. So I think there's a very clear commitment there. It is an enormous economic force in our area. So many of our ratepayers are employed by Amgen. So I would ask that the board, I'm not asking the board to make a decision tonight anyways, we're just presenting information. I think some of the information that it might be helpful to bring to the board for the next segment of this discussion is further discussion with LAFCO per your comment, as well as more information about Amgen's role in the overall economy and financial contribution.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't relate to how we bring in business and how we make sure that our ratepayers aren't going to be on the hook for this. It doesn't matter what they provide to the community. What matters is our ratepayers and their expense and their investment in this for-profit company that's making billions of dollars off of the investment of our ratepayers. You know, we need guarantees. We need to make sure that that investment is going to be covered, and we're not going to be paying at this point $130 million over the next 50 to 60 years past our lifetimes. You know, it's just, we got to make sure it makes sense.
I wouldn't say it doesn't matter. I would maybe say that it's a multiplier to the gravity of situation, and it is a benefit. And I think it goes into the fact of the value that it brings to the community from employment is if the agreement succeeds, not the variation or size of the agreement, right? That I think is a definite benefit, right? Community development, jobs is very important. I think what we're trying to do is quantify what I'm harping on is quantifying the value versus the agreement. And there's a lot to consider, but I think it would be helpful to compartmentalize those things a little bit so that we can make headway individually. LAFCO, the value cost benefit analysis. And then sure, it's important to keep in mind the benefit to the community as far as employment and stuff. And I think that, let's say it came down to, we can break even and a business strategist has evaluated that we really don't have that much value in it to charge a high price for it to offset costs to our purveyors. Then we go, yeah, you know, we break even and it is a great benefit. So no brainer. But let's say we come up with an agreement where Amgen has realized that it's a huge benefit to them. They're willing to pay a reasonable price for the service. And that can help us offset some of the rate increases that were faced to our community. I think that's kind of a big win and the jobs would still persist.
Well, exactly that too. You know, Amgen has high paying jobs. How do we make this make sense to those low income communities who are struggling when we tell them your rate's going to increase because we're going to pay for this $20 million pipe for a company that makes billions of dollars?
I guess also you have to consider the fact of, is the employment pool over the entire service area that will be affected by the cost of this connection or effort. And this isn't just to Amgen, I'm trying to establish, move forward, I don't want to say policy, but sort of guide of engagement for future connection to the pipeline. I think that it's a unique resource, and I think it's very important to consider how it affects, well, kind of a lot in our district, or in our, as our district. Yeah,
Sorry, I thought you were continuing.
no, I was gonna say something else, and I'm just trying to frame it properly, but I'm getting too far in the weeds, really. The start, I think, is, and I'd really like for us to look into a business consultant or a business strategist, because a lot of this is a very faceted situation, and I think they can bring a lot of light and guidance to establishing proper metrics to the decisions that we can make.
100% agree.
Because I'm not a business owner. I haven't made business decisions this large, and I don't know the scope of staff as well, but I would hate to grasp at best guesses when we can have a tangible large benefit to a small investment to identifying the information that we need to make a proper decision.
Okay, so if I'm properly understanding the board's direction at this point.
Well, I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
I'd love to hear from Director McMillan, Director Quay. I'm sorry.
I'm fine. I'm just listening.
Go ahead, Director. Director McMillan?
Yeah, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Oh, so I have a question. Of the existing agreements that we have now, is the Amgen seen as a precedent changer?
I think what's a bit unique about the Amgen situation, it's not that they're a private entity, because we have two existing discharge agreements with private entities. Although in neither case are those discharge stations yet built, but as I noted, one is currently out to bid. They are close to the existing alignment of the pipe. So in both cases, Calleguas does not need to expend any additional capital in order for them to connect. They're just right along the alignment. In the case of the Amcal farm worker housing, it's literally next door to the North Pleasant Valley desalter. And the Berry Grower Consortium is right near the alignment, fairly close to the control tank.
So the cost to us is staff time because they're paying for the rest.
So over 50 years, we want to be idealistically at zero, right?
Sorry, zero.
Payback.
Oh, we want to be fully paid back.
Yeah, so, and then as I maybe, erroneously, but of the memories that I have of Las Virgenes and how they did things in the different U districts where they had new build outs. So that's a whole new arrangement. And so all these new pieces then had different kinds of costs.
This is where you're talking about connection fees.
That's correct. And so how they did that is what I foresee as being the agreement side of when new connections are being considered. So I don't see a problem with there being different types of charges in each different category, because as when they came on is they are different from the baseline pipeline that we built. We called at some point, that's the end. So everything from here now is new development, new set of charges, new set of agreements. So I would see eventually you could have a mechanism. You have different possibilities, and I didn't think of all of those, but those in some combination of one or all, that cost recovery is worth considering. And that when you have a new pipeline, as long as the regions are approved to be able to link into our service area, that's a new cost recovery area. So I think that can be flexible.
Yeah.
Like localized cost recovery areas. I've got some categories that I think would be a good starting point. And I think you probably have some written down, but I think LAFCO is one of them. Existing agreements, future agreements, regional agreements, NEAM 1.0, 2.0 kind of things. I think that's its own field. Necessity for business, material, strategist, value, demand, those kind of things, cost. And then establishing differences between community projects versus for-profit projects to stay in line with the initial objective of the SMP for community importance versus if we're going to expand that, because looking at the metrics and values that you presented, it was fairly biased towards developing local projects, groundwater, desalting, definite benefit to the community. And so if we have the available room in the pipe or the bandwidth, whatever agreement we go into should definitely be a net benefit to the community. And when Director Quade said, the future goal would be to break even, I would say at minimum.
Yes, that's right, because you want to plan for being able to renew,
Maintain.
maintain.
To go with that, with the for-profit businesses, I would look for agreements and contracts on outputs so that we could recover cost. And also, if you're going to disconnect after 2 years and we've only recovered $1 million out of our, X amount that we invested into connecting to you, you're gonna pay us for the remainder of that. You know, if we're gonna do something like that, that's what I would look for.
Okay. Well, I think, is there anything else in terms of data needs, thoughts?
Director McMillan?
No.
Okay.
We beat that one.
I'll just reiterate something that I was just gonna make, both Amy and Christine laugh, but, you know, I'll just reiterate that since we went back at that ordinance, we saw, who all was supposed to be able to contribute to this salinity management pipeline. I have a source control background, so my paranoia about the use of the salinity management pipe is industrial users.
Amy shares your paranoia.
It's, so as long as we don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, water quality is always paramount, no question. It doesn't matter who the discharger is or what the source is. If it does not meet our standards, it does not go in the pipe. End of discussion. No question there.
Thank you.
So I think I've gotten some important input from the board that'll help shape the next conversation we have on this topic.
Yeah, I think like I mentioned, we beat that one dead already. And I think it's a lot of the same things the board said at the last meeting when we talked about this. It's the same stuff all over again. I think staff should maybe take that stuff now and run with it.
I had a better understanding of questions that I started to have at the last board meeting, so I appreciate the presentation. I think it's, like I said, a very multifaceted problem, and let's take it one facet at a time. I would really like to hone in on not a mission statement, not a motto, but the purpose, an underlying fundamental purpose that we try to keep in mind when we go into these discussions. Yeah, I don't really know the word. I'm not the best with words, but
It has evolved. I mean, I remember a long time ago finding out about the SMP and that particular time it was core rights management. That's the first thing that came to our mind.
And it still remains an important function.
yeah. Well, I've got more ideas, but I think we'll probably have more discussions about it.
We will. We absolutely will. I don't know exactly which board meeting yet, but there will be more to come.
Thank you.
You don't need public comment on this one, right?
It's not an action item.
And I don't. Well, we didn't ask for public comment on the two action items. Can we go back and request public comment on those two? The action items that we just passed?
Can't hurt.
It's too late. Okay. All right. So on action item 7A and 7B, if anyone would like to make public comment, please raise your hand. I see no raised hands. Everybody?
And I do want to make one more comment, sorry. I want to keep in mind our sister agencies and how it affects them, because that is fundamentally like them. And second, I think that's also an important part of our community development, right? What's good for your neighbor is good for you. And so I don't want it to come off like we're only considering our benefit. I think it's just a more nuanced conversation, but I do want to keep them in mind because it does affect them.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that there are representatives of Los Virgenes online right now. So they've just heard your discussion and presentation, and I'm sure I will certainly be talking with them further.
Good. Absolutely. And I did talk to Director Jay Lewitt this morning about it, actually, so they are interested. Okay, up next, if we don't have any more comment discussion on that, Director Millen? Okay. All right, moving over to General Counsel report.
On the specific report, I'll just point out in your inboxes, there should be an email, if you haven't seen it already, about changes to the Brown Act with a memo that I sent out yesterday.
Okay. Received. Thank you very much. Up next, we have board of directors reports, committee meeting reports. Have we had any committees?
We have not since the last board meeting.
Okay. Director's list of admin code reimbursable meetings. We'll go ahead and get started with Director McMillan.
Okay, go ahead and start with someone else. I need to turn on the light here. Sorry.
Director Quady.
Okay, I attended the water issues by Zoom on February 17th, so listening to Ram Circuit on United's efforts to replenish and protect local basins. A lot of new information about what all maps of the groundwater systems they are, what's in their purview. And then today I've had the Aqua Regional Briefing and Calleguas Briefing DC and tonight's board meeting.
Thank you, Director Quady. Director Robert.
Since the last board meeting, AW Waterwise, and let me just say, the level of modeling is incredible. I mean, they could go on and give presentations about that for hours and hours, and you still wouldn't run out of detail and information. So that's an incredible ongoing process. But and then tonight's board meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Director Robert. Director McMillan.
Yes, thank you for your patience. On February the 11th, I had meetings with legislators along with Los Virgenes and Camarosa in Sacramento. February, that same day, we also attended the part of the Aqua Legislative Symposium at the Sheraton Grand, Sacramento. The 12th to the 13th, the Cal DSAL Conference at the Sheraton Grand in Sacramento. February 17th, Agua's water issues. On the 18th, tonight's board meeting. And for Metropolitan on February 5th, it was the North Caucus. And we also had discussion with legal regarding a current work claim via Zoom. And on the 8th to the 10th, I attended MWD's committee and board meetings. On the 11th, I had a meeting with Graham Bradner, the executive director of the Delta Construction and Design. I can't read my own writing. I apologize. DCDCA. And then there was a board meeting also of the DCDCA on the 13th. And on the 16th, I had a teleconference call with Brian Thomas to discuss the Delta Financing Authority issues. And today, Region 8 briefing via Zoom and also discussion about our upcoming legislative briefings in DC next week.
Thank you, Director McMillan. All right, for myself, since the last board meeting on the 5th, I attended an Aqua Local Government Committee chat, is exactly what they called it. We discussed plans for the committee and what our goals are going to be, as well as some ideas for the upcoming conference. On the 9th, I had a meeting with our general manager. On the 10th, we had a surprise award for Kat here at the district with the chamber. It was definitely a surprise, and she was very excited to receive her the leadership award from the City of Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce for up and coming leaders. Yeah.
And we will. Yeah, she's still back there. We'll recognize that in an upcoming board meeting as
Okay, so
well.
we're not going to make her give a speech.
Not without warning.
Not without warning.
You don't have a speech prepared?
All right. Up next, on the 12th, I had a nice, very productive, strategic phone call with Henry Gromlich. It was very nice. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me that morning. And when was it? Yesterday, I had a meeting with Ian and Charlotte for DC planning for Aqua. Today, I had a lunch meeting with Golden State Water and our general manager to discuss a little bit, to learn more about them, their needs, and just connect and understand each other a little bit better. It was very productive. They were very happy. They even requested that we do it once a year. So they were pleased. It was a good meeting, and we have more coming up after that with other purveyors. tonight's board meeting. Okay. Up next, we have a discussion regarding upcoming meetings to be attended by the board.
I could just highlight a few upcoming meetings of note. The March 4th board meeting, we're going to try to keep short because Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District really is apparently this time considering our easement on the Ventura interconnection. And so Director McMillan and Fernando and I will need to be at their meeting and Camarillo, which starts at 6. So we'll try to keep this meeting on the shorter side. As we discussed at the last board meeting, we have decided that we need to reschedule the first board meeting in May due to Aqua. We've moved that to April 29th. So just a reminder to everyone of that change. And then this is further out than our upcoming meeting schedules reflect, but we have a date for the renaming of celebration of the Blois well-filled emergency generators. And that will be Friday, June 19th.
June 19th.
At 11 a.m. More details to come on that, but I'm excited we were able to pin down a date that the family has concurred with that date. They're confirmed their.
I'll have to check with my wife. It's the day before my son's birthday.
And
he already requested Legoland.
well, that's understandable.
Yeah.
On the 20th, we're gonna have the regional, Region 8 Aqua meeting at MWD.
Oh, okay. That's exciting.
We
And-
are now ready to do our presentations.
Okay. And up next, we have item 5, presentation. Recognition of Tricia Ferguson, Manager of Human Resources and Risk Management. Charlotte Hallfield, Manager of External Affairs. Jennifer Lancaster, Manager of Water Resources, for completion of the Association of California Water Agencies Joint Power Insurance Authority Leadership Essentials for the Water Industry Program. Ian.
Thank you, Director Avila. Yeah, it's my pleasure to do these presentations tonight. As Director Avila just mentioned, we're celebrating Jennifer, Charlotte, and Tricia for completing the Aqua JPIA Leadership Essentials in the Water Industry Program. This is a program that was conceived of by Aqua JPIA and Leadership Development Network, or LDN, which at the time was owned and operated by Clint Kamek, who you all know from the board workshop that we did last spring, based on the DISC profile and the DISC methodology. So I just wanted to read one of the reason that Aqua JPIA started doing this and has continued to do this. This is from their website about the program, is that without effective leadership, organizations do not operate at their potential. Employees are not engaged, on-the-job accidents increase, and employee issues erupt. So from the JPIA's perspective, the better organizations are managed, the better leaders are in those organizations, the fewer claims they get. And we have at Calleguas, the 3 that completed last year, Wes, Christine, Fernando, and I have done this program. Kara, it just started the program this year. So it's something that staff level believes in. And before we bring them up to congratulate them, I just wanted to highlight a couple things that they have brought back and started doing really as a result of this program. So Charlotte and Jennifer were in the same cohort last year, which meant that they drove down to Costa Mesa once a quarter together. And so they got a pre-brief and debrief. And on the trip back from one of those, and you may remember this from a MSR, not a highlight, but the MSR itself a couple months ago, but I wanted to expand on it. On the way back, they were talking about their employees and the work that External Affairs and Water Resources does, which, as you know, there's a large center in the large area in the center of that Venn diagram between External Affairs and Water Resources. And so Kat reports to Charlotte, Jennifer Vasquez and Megan Schneider report to Jennifer Lancaster. And there was, amongst all of their responsibilities and activities, Charlotte and Jennifer decided, well, let's try to just kind of shift those. If you think about a clock, we'll turn them all like a quarter of a turn around the clock. So Jen Vasquez can do a little bit more legislative work with Charlotte. Kat can do a little bit more social media and outreach engagement work that Megan was doing. And Megan can do a little bit more of the water use efficiency work that Jen would have to give up in order to do more legislative work. This worked out because Megan was doing some of that at Oxnard and had started to miss it. Jen had been doing it for 10 years and was looking to get into legislation and policy a little more. And Kat was really clearly growing our social media presence and killing our legislative outreach, killing it at our legislative outreach.
Wonderful Valentine's Day cards. Very.
Yeah, right. Case in point. So this idea and it follows exactly what the Aqua JPA was hoping to get at, is operating at potential, engaging employees, and really getting folks to lean farther into their strength. And because of that, stretching to achieve even more than they had been before. So that experiment has been 3-4 months now. And if you ask anyone, it's working really, really well. So that was a direct outcome. So for Tricia, who was in the separate cohort, so going down and kind of on alternate months to Costa Mesa. So her main takeaway that she shared with me is less kind of immediately tangible, but no less impactful. So what she describes to me, and I've seen this at work, is that she's worked to find opportunities to let staff really be the experts in what they do and to take the lead on projects. And this concept of what they call in the program interdependent leadership is intended to foster a sense of collective ownership, which I can tell you leads to more confident and more engaged employees. I can also tell you it's a very hard thing to do as a manager, especially when you're as eminently capable as Tricia. But I can tell you, because I work with the employees in the HRRM department all the time, that they're flourishing because of Tricia's leadership. And some of that is directly stuff that she learned in the program. So all of that is to say that I appreciate, I know that Christine appreciates, and we all appreciate the board's investment and support in staff. And Christine and I just want to extend also our appreciation to your collective investment in yourselves, because I think it's paying dividends right away. So with that, I'll shut up and we can just invite you guys up. Not to say anything, no worry. Tricia was worried I was going to make her give a speech on the spot, but I'm not. But it's picture time. All right.
I know it.
Still sitting, I was waiting for a speech. Congratulations.
Thank you.
for everything you've done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's not like that. Sign like faces for.
The focus should be on that.
Thank you.
It's fine. Glad you made it.
So German.
Tablet of directors. Oh, yeah.
We could have grabbed her photo off the wall in the foyer next
I
time.
do have a collective question that I'd ask Chief Desmond, is that, did you get an opportunity to provide feedback on the coursework you did to JPI?
Yes, they did have a survey at the end and they solicited feedback on various aspects of the program. So we were able to provide that. And it was a pretty in-depth survey. So I feel like we were able to give a lot of good feedback, but
Wonderful.
it's such an excellent program. It's been going on for a while now. So I don't have a lot that I could recommend for improvement. I'm just so grateful to have been able to participate, and especially as being a fairly new manager, it's really helped me in terms of developing how I want to be as a manager. So it's great. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and commitment.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. That sounds incredible. Okay. Any other questions or comments by the board? All right. Moving over to item 8, upcoming meetings.
I already stated everything I needed to update the board on.
All right. We have a request for future agenda items.
Obviously, more to come on the SMP discussion.
Okay, board member comments. Okay, and we have informational items.
Not tonight.
Need for a closed session? Sure. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you for